Hi, everyone. We're going to give everybody just a little bit of time to join before we jump into things, but I just wanted to start out while we wait on a few people to join by introducing myself. My name's Joe. I'm the founder of OneSource. Many of you have probably received automated emails from me or seen videos where I've talked about some of this MCAT stuff before. For that, I appreciate your attention and apologize for any obnoxiousness that comes from some of the automated stuff. The goal of tonight's meeting is really just to answer a lot of the questions that many of you have. I've got a slide presentation. Weird. Okay. Somebody muted me. I think Colleen muted me. By the way, this is Colleen. Colleen is helping with a ton of the logistical components of this course. And so you'll be receiving a bunch of emails from her throughout the process as well. If you do decide to sign up and work with us, we ask for a lot of feedback throughout because our goal is to make this as good as it possibly can be. That's the first of about 1,000 times you'll hear me say that over the course of the next several weeks if you do decide to work with us. Anyway, so the goal tonight is to go through and give you the primary details on the course, and then to spend most of the time that we're going to have together here answering your questions, because my primary aim is, again, to answer all of your questions, because I do believe that what we're doing here is the best MCAT resource available in this space at the moment, especially for the cost. But even devoid of cost, I really do believe that the value we're adding is greater than any other course. I personally taught the Kaplan course for 4 years before I started this company. And I can say with confidence that what we're doing here is a lot more personalized and just a much higher level than anything else I've seen, if I do say so myself. So without further ado, I know a few people are still going to be coming in a little bit late here. We did have about 10x the number of people registered who are in this meeting right now. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of this, and then we can reiterate some things later if a few other people come in. So I'm going to share my screen and begin walking you all through this presentation here. So, as many of you know, you're here today for our spring semester MCAT bootcamp. Again, the goal of this is to walk through all of the content that is on the MCAT in a manner that makes a lot of sense, where we're able to integrate ideas across disciplines as effectively as possible, while also providing you with all the appropriate MCAT study strategies as well as test taking strategies. And really just the aim is to make it to where you're as aware of everything on this test as you possibly can be, and also extremely familiar with the concepts that are going to be tested and how they link up together. Because as you may know, the MCAT doesn't care so much about your ability to memorize a huge list of facts. That is important. You have to be able to speak the language of the test. But what's more essential is your understanding how to solve problems and use the knowledge base that you do have from your undergrad courses in a manner that allows you to work through things that you haven't seen before, novel problems presented on the test. So the I guess this is an intro slide where I'm supposed to talk about myself a little bit. So my name, like I said, is Joe. For many of you who weren't here whenever I first got this going, I've been teaching MCAT for about 11 years now. I finished medical school in 2017, but began teaching the MCAT shortly after I took it myself about 11 years ago. The test has changed a ton over the time that I've been doing this, and I've actually gotten better at it for virtue of having taught it a ton. But just know that if you do sign up to work with us in this course, that you will be learning from me directly. I teach about 80 to 90% of the meetings that we do inside of the class. And you'll also be able to interact with me a lot through the office hours, which I'll talk about here in a moment. So things that you can hope to gain from this meeting today are, first and foremost, who the course is for. Some of you may be worried that because you're too early in the process or too late in the process, this might not be a great fit for you, but I'll address that momentarily. I also want to show you what you're going to get in terms of our user portal, as well as practice exams, questions that we're going to give you, all the videos associated, office hours, etc. And then I want to talk a little bit about cost. If you read any of the emails we sent out today, you're probably aware that we're running a whole bunch of discounts, all of which can stack up on top of each other to make this way more affordable than really any other course that I'm aware of in this space. And then we'll talk about ways to sign up and, of course, spend probably the majority of the time in this meeting answering your questions. You're also welcome to ask questions in the chat. Colleen is here to respond to anything that comes up in the chat as I'm going through this. And then she'll also raise to my attention anything, if there are any prevailing questions that I didn't address. She has total freedom to interrupt me as I'm going through this. So again, many of you may be wondering whether this course is right for you if you're already pretty deep into the MCAT process. and already doing a lot of practice questions, maybe you have what you thought to be content review behind you, but you're realizing that as you go through UWorld questions or AMC exams or AMC questions, that you're not as familiar with the content as you would have liked to have been. That is the case for many people. And so I think that this is a really good option for people in that scenario because it can serve as a sort of integrating factor where you've got these loose facts that you're peripherally aware of, but maybe not necessarily super apt at when it comes to applying those facts to actual practice questions, because we will be doing a lot of practice questions both within UWorld and some of the AAMC stuff throughout this course together, as well as in the assignments that we give you outside. And then on the opposite side of that coin, we have many of you here who I'm sure are just getting started with MCAT prep. A lot of people may be freaking out thinking that they should have started earlier for MCAT prep. This is an accelerated pass through content. However, it's not accelerated as the current winter break MCAT bootcamp we're doing, because this iteration of the course, we're only going to meet twice a week. And so I think that it should be about perfect to push you through all of the content on this test in 9 weeks in a concerted manner that integrates ideas to where we're pulling on facts from both physics, gen chem, biology, and biochemistry all in the same weeks, and showing you really what the underlying nature of reality is, rather than just memorizing these disparate topics, because the test doesn't work like that. The test really works in a manner that forces you to understand how physics informs chemistry and chemistry informs biology and so on. And so even though there could be a broad spectrum of people in here, I do think that we're going to be offering value for everybody across the board on this. And that's also been the feedback from many of our students who are doing the first iteration of this course, which was the winter break bootcamp that we're currently running at the moment. So a few of this just lists a few of the things that we're going to be providing in the course. Obviously, the live online sessions are the primary function that we're providing here. I'll get into that in a second. But we've also decided to throw in weekly office hours. We decided to do this during week 1 of the current course that we're running, just because people had a lot of questions at the end of meetings naturally. And I wanted to take more time to answer those questions. And so that's kind of an example of how we'll be able to incorporate feedback throughout the process just to make this better for you. Because if things come up that we view as able to improve what we're doing, then we're going to do those things. Expert instructors, obviously, we hang our hat on the fact that everybody who works for us and with us scored 525 or better on the MCAT. And so you'll be working with a lot of those people throughout this course. And we also do provide personalized study plans for everybody who works with us. That's a function that I don't think any other course in this space has, where where if you do sign up for the course, you'll get set up with one of our tutors to meet one-on-one to go through a syllabus and create that syllabus to make it fit your needs. And then finally, we've got a student portal that I've built out for this, where we're hosting all of the videos and all of the practice questions that you'll be going through throughout the process. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like as well. Again, the live online sessions are mostly taught by me. However, we do also have at least 2 tutors present in every single one of those meetings. Their goal is for being there is to answer questions in the chat, as well as to lead breakout discussions if any of those do need to arise. For instance, if let's say that we are going through a topic that is really easy for some people who have been studying for this for a while, but extremely unfamiliar for those of you who may be just getting started. If we need to, we can create a separate room for me to take, say, the class that the cohort of the class that is a little bit further ahead and getting the topics a little bit more quickly so we can continue the pace. And then a separate meeting room for one of the tutors to lead some of you who might need more review on those topics. And obviously we record everything. So if you feel like you jumped into the wrong room, you can always go back and rewatch the meeting video later. During the meetings, a lot of what I do anyway, is pull in I'll pull on ideas and try to connect them across disciplines, as I mentioned earlier. And I use this sort of interface, not a calculator. I use this sort of interface right here to draw out pictures and to type things in real time. That way I can illustrate what's really going on in the science here in a manner that is really coherent for you. I use an artist pin display for this, so the production value is really high. You can type things in. You can see that we'll draw a lot of pictures throughout the course. We'll also paste a lot of things in, and we'll also pull in a lot of outside passages so that I can show you how I would recommend going through passages as well as addressing questions on this test. Because while I do want to help you all get way better at the science, and that's a huge point of emphasis for me, your goal is to get better at the actual MCAT. And so I want to spend a lot of time going through actual MCAT stuff with you, showing you how to, like I said, make the rubber meet the road when it comes to taking the science knowledge that you have and applying it to these problems. As we move on here, I want to discuss the office hours. As I said a minute ago, the office hours weren't originally part of this course, but just based on my perceived need, my perception of what people kind of needed and could benefit from, we added it in. And so this is basically just 1 hour. Sometimes it extends out to 2 hours a week where we will meet and just let you all show up with any questions you have. Obviously, if we have a ton of people in office hours and there isn't enough time for everybody to get questions in, we might expand that and make more hours of office hours a week. We just want to make sure that we're adding value here where we're able. So um, this is kind of quiz time for me whenever I'm sitting in the office hours, which is again why we only hire people who've scored 525 or better, because you're really welcome to bring anything and I should be able to explain it all. I've taught this long enough and feel like I know the science well enough. And so a lot of this does turn into to some extent individualized tutoring if not many people do show up. But in most of the meetings we had a decent turnout. And so and the feedback on the office hours has been fantastic to this point. Here I just wanted to focus on the expert instructors a little bit, although I've already mentioned it, that all of the tutors present in both office hours and helping you build out your study plans are first and foremost test takers who have scored 525 or better on the test, but they also have a ton of past teaching experience and have gone through our entire training process, which is pretty extensive for people who do sign up to work for us. This is a major point of quality control from my perspective. Whenever I started initially hiring tutors to work in this company, it was very, very difficult for me to actually do that just because I didn't want to relinquish control to anybody else. And so quality control as we've moved through has been just a major emphasis for me in all of this. And so they will be the people, like I said, helping you with the study plans. They'll also be present in office hours and answering questions in the chat outside of meetings. The personalized study plan. So I want to show you a little bit of what that actually looks like here. I think I might need to exit my slideshow in order to get that pulled up. But the personalized study plan is going to look like this. I know this is a lot, but you can see that this is going to have goals for you for each week. And this one's blank because I've just got the template file right now. And this is for the winter break course, but yours will look identical. The dates on the side will just be different. But it's got goals for each week as well as goals for every day of the week. And you can see that we've got 2 columns here for each day. So, these are the course assignments for Monday and then additional material for Monday. The course assignments just sync up with my main copy because I want to be able to enter in all the things associated with the course, the reading, the practice questions, of course, the lectures that we're going to do. But then this additional material column is for you and the tutor who you meet with early on in the process to fill out based on whatever your needs are. So some people prefer to learn all of this stuff from books. Some people prefer to watch like Khan Academy videos. Some people prefer to just do UWorld questions or other practice problems. A lot of people have started liking to do our quizzes that we provide as well. And so the additional material column is going to be more the personalized component of this that you can fill out with your tutor and modify throughout the process and sync up with the actual course that we're doing throughout the process as well. And so you can see this is a pretty large sheet that you will have access to once you sign up for the course. Back over to my slides. Let's see if we can get that back. Yeah. So that was the personalized study plan. Happy to answer questions on that later. We can also provide information on tutoring packages. I probably won't give a ton of info on that tonight because I know most of you are here for the course specifically. So inside of the 1SM student portal is where we're going to host all of the recordings from all the meetings, as well as assignments that you're going to get throughout the process, both to prepare for the meetings as well as to review after the meetings are over. So what we've ended up doing in the current iteration of the course is that we've assigned a whole bunch of quizzes covering all of the content that should be covered in the meetings or represented by the concepts that we're covering in the meetings. And that lets people go through and test their understanding of things before they come to the meeting, where I'm going to go through everything a little bit faster than what you would expect if I were doing like an hour on every single topic. And make sure that they have, to the extent that they have any deficits there, they've already identified them by missing questions on the quizzes. That way we can go a little bit deeper in the meetings and work on connecting ideas at the level the MCAT's going to ask you to connect them. But then we'll assign UWorld questions outside of or for after the meetings as well, so that you can then take that knowledge that I gave you during the meeting and apply it to actual MCAT style problems and questions and passages. I'll show you what some of that looks like here in a minute as well. And then also inside of the student portal, we have access to our proprietary MCAT AI assistant. This is where it says MCAT AI Assistant 2.0. I'll show you the differences between that and our current version that's on the website in a moment. But first, I wanted to show you what the portal looks like briefly. So inside of the student portal with us, you've got this top section. This is just a video that I made walking people through the portal, just in case you don't remember every word I say today. The very next section down here just says My MCAT. This is a summary of your MCAT process and your goals. For instance, you can enter your test date, your goal score, as well as your diagnostic score, and it just tracks your progress over time, tells you how much time you have left, how much you've improved, etc. Down here in performance summary, I initially made this so that people could just track their AMC exams, but I have a few students who have started tracking like every test they take, meaning third-party exams as well as UWorld. And I found that the thing that I built actually works for that as well. So any UWorld set that you do or third-party test you do, you can just hit add new test right here and enter in all the data from that test, the test name, your overall score, et cetera, and as well as a few notes like how you're feeling that day, what you might do to improve. And then it'll create a record of that down here. And then if you are entering a ton of things I've had a couple people enter like 60 tests in here since they started in the winter break boot camp. But if you are doing that, then you can just, and you want to go find whatever it was that you took, you can just type, say, AMC exam 4, for instance, and now it'll sort that out and find it for you. So it's just like a good way to monitor your progress throughout and see, if you want to go back and review how you've done on something previously. It's a really easy way to look for that. And then down here, this is really like the most important part, I would say, because this is where all the lectures are hosted. So you can see that we've got one card here for every lecture we've done throughout the process. Obviously, we don't have one here yet because this is scheduled for tomorrow evening. But in each of these lectures, we're going to be recording the meetings, like I said, and that way you can just click on any of these pictures, any of these thumbnails, and go back and rewatch the lecture if you would like to. I promise it doesn't stay that small. You can maximize it here. And this will show you whatever it was that we were talking about. This was just an endocrine meeting that we were doing the other day. I think I also walked through the menstrual cycle and gave people some information about that. And so that's what the lectures really look like. So you can very easily go review the videos. I found people who do review videos for the tutoring meetings and probably for the course tend to do a lot better on this than people who don't. Some of that has to do with working harder on it because, if you work harder, you're going to do better. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that it was a meeting where you were a participant and prepared for specifically and were a part of as well. And that way, that means that if you do go back and review it, you'll kind of remember some of it. It'll be almost like a second pass through and just be a lot more informative and useful and easier to pay attention to. But then if you click see more on any of these down here, let's just arbitrarily pick, let's say this biology of signals one. If you click the card on it, then it should take you to a page that corresponds to that lecture. Inside of each of these, so again, you could just watch the lecture right here if you click that video, but it tells you what to expect from that lecture as well as assignments that you had before class. So the students who were in this class had 4 quizzes that they needed to take before, plus a set of really specific UWorld questions that I've curated to test the things that we covered in the lecture afterward. So that you can go through those UWorld sets and test your understanding and your ability to apply that knowledge to the actual MCAT, and then come in to office hours maybe and ask about those specific UWorld questions as well. We've also entered in associated Kaplan chapters with each lecture because most of you do have those books. So if you do want to go see what topics specifically we're going to be talking about in the lecture outside of the description we've given you, then you can very easily go review there. It also has a link to a drive right here where we're going to be putting all of the meeting notes as well as all of those quizzes that I mentioned that you need to go through. And so all of that's just located inside of this portal as well. We're going to be adding a few more resources to this too. We've got a partnership with Chad from Chad's Prep, who I'll mention here in just a second, talk about some of that just is going to give us a much larger repository of quizzes and video resources that you can use to review for this. Over to the MCAT AI assistant briefly before we move on to that. You can see it's just linked right here, MCAT AI Assistant 2.0. You've probably seen the MCAT AI Assistant that we have on our website at some point. Many people have. This thing's fantastic because it is basically GPT-4, which is the paid version of ChatGPT, but then we fine-tuned the model using 5,000 hours of our own tutoring videos. So it's a massive expert in MCAT questions. If you sign up for the course, then you get access to version 2.0 of that, which the point of version 2.0 is that it has access to it has the ability to see stuff. And so you can just paste practice questions in. I just pasted one in and then I put, can you explain this question for me? And with just a screenshot of the practice question and asking for an explanation, it's able to generate an explanation in real time. It usually takes about 10 seconds to come up with that. And so that's incredibly useful when you're either going through UWorld or through the AMC, especially because they have garbage explanations for most of their stuff. Or any of our practice questions that we provide you as well. And so this is just an example of what that looks like. And you can ask it follow-up questions as well as you're moving through. But I found that to be incredibly useful for a lot of people recently. So then back over here to my presentation. This is our user portal, like I mentioned. Here's some info on Chad's prep stuff. Chad yesterday was Chad's been in the MCAT space for about as long as I've been in the MCAT space. He's been teaching it longer than I have. And he's got a series of videos, tons and tons of videos, and I think a couple thousand practice questions in his portal that link up with his videos. And so he went through yesterday after he and I met and linked up all of his content to all of our lectures in our course, so that if you're prepping for a lecture or reviewing after a lecture, you can easily see what of his content fits with our stuff and go review it for additional context or to get additional practice on anything. This I'm really excited about. It's super useful. His platform is normally $60 a month. If you are one of our students, you'll get a 25% discount code to knock it down to $45 a month, which is, frankly, he's running it at a very low cost for what it is. So I highly recommend that. But also you don't have to use it if you don't want. We kind of debated for a little bit whether we wanted to just package this in with the course and cause it to increase the price by $90, or if we wanted to just give you that option. And we decided you having the option was probably better. So we went with that. We're also offering a discount on UWorld subscriptions for anybody who signs up for the course. We've been doing this forever, but we recently decided that we're going to knock $100 off of the UWorld price that UWorld would have on their website for anybody who's a part of this course. So we're technically giving you UWorld at a loss for us, but we would just want to make sure that you have access to it if you're going through our course, because we have linked it so closely with the UWorld content, and it's just such a good resource for you to have at your disposal. So lots of stuff available. The goal is for us to curate the best stuff in the MCAT space, so you don't have to worry about searching through, like all of Reddit or Student Doctor Network or something to try to find what things to use. It's just going to be right there in front of you in that personalized prep plan, and you can go through that and not have to worry about doing anything else outside of it. So a lot of you may already be aware of what this costs, but we've kind of decided that we really want to run this at a huge discount compared to what other courses are in this space. The first iteration of this, we did a little bit lower than this, but this one we've added a whole lot more resources to it and refined it a little bit. And so we set the base price at $2,000. However, we're running a discount code for the next, I think, up until Tuesday at midnight of next week, where we're going to be knocking 20% off of that. That's just to our advantage because it lets us know if we have enough people in the course to run the course. And then also we wanted to pass some of that advantage on to you. So that gets it down to $1,600. And then tonight Colleen is going to be dropping a discount link in the chat where any of you from now until Tuesday could purchase this course at $1,440 for the entire course. That's just kind of as a reward for showing up to this meeting, which I appreciate those of you who did show up doing. So that, Colleen, I don't know if you've dropped that in the chat yet or not. I haven't been paying attention to the chat at all.
Yes, I just did.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So if you do want to sign up for the course, you can use that link. I recommend just clicking it in the chat and just putting it in your web browser between now and the date. I think it's January 9th or January 9th at like 11:59 p.m. where that link will expire. So I do recommend doing that. Obviously, I'm super biased, but that is the cost of all of this. We've also included in here a few testimonials from students who are currently doing our course with us. These are actually pared down a little bit from what they were originally. I asked some people for testimonials, and they both sent me these like massive emails. So we do have more where this came from, but I did just want to provide some semblance of evidence for those of you who haven't heard of us before, interacting with us for the first time, that what we're doing here is good. I personally work at least 100 hours every week on this stuff, trying to make it as good as it can be. And the more feedback that we can get from those of you who do decide to participate throughout the process, the better this will continue to get over the course of time. But without saying too much more, I know I've rambled on here for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So I would love to open it up for all of you to ask any questions that may have arisen during this discussion. And, I'm happy to stick around as long as it takes to answer all those questions and provide info and value as I'm able to.
Awesome, Joe. I'll kick it off with questions because there was one that came in the chat from Sharon. She asked, what is the difference between the current boot camp and this one? And she saw the addition of Chad's prep, but wondered if anything else was going to be different.
Oh yeah, thanks, Sharon. Yeah, so I think Sharon is in the current the current course. Yeah, so the new course is going to be a lot of the same stuff as the current course. I mentioned for those of you who are in the current course that we might do kind of like an advanced version of this later on in the process. This is not that. This is going to be there are going to be a lot of the same lectures given. I am obviously incorporating feedback throughout as well as I possibly can. So you can expect this to be a little bit of a tick up just because of the feedback that those of you who are in the current course have given me. However, yeah, I don't want to misrepresent this and say that it's going to be different because it's pretty much the same syllabus. We did incorporate Chad's prep. We're going to link UWorld a little bit more closely, and I'm going to polish up the user portal some. We're going to try to incorporate all those quizzes that you currently have access to into the user portal to track the feedback as well. But for the most part, this is not version 2 of that. This is not the advanced version of the course. This is just the second time we're running it. Well, another big difference here is that we're doing it over 9 weeks instead of 6. So meaning that we're going to be meeting twice a week for the actual meetings rather than 3 times a week.
Awesome. Another question just came in. I'm wondering if the MCAT focuses primarily on a specific subject or does it cover all the subjects equally?
It doesn't cover all the subjects equally. So the MCAT is going to be separated into 4 subsections. Those are chemistry and physics, CARS, which is basically like the reading section of the ACT or the SAT, where you read passages and answer questions about no science at all. Biology and biochemistry, and psychology and sociology. The list of topics that the MCAT covers is incredibly long. If you want to know if a specific topic is on the MCAT or not, the best place to go for that is actually to go to our MCAT AI assistant on our website. If you just go to our main website right here, then the MCAT AI assistant is just right up here at the top. And you can, if you're curious whether something's on the MCAT or not, just ask it, and it knows everything that's supposed to be on the MCAT. So that's my best advice for that specifically. But there are some topics that it covers more heavily than others. And where it does that, we've specifically emphasized those topics in the course. For instance, the lecture that I'm giving for the course tomorrow is covering what I think I mentioned it in here as like the most important topics on the MCAT. So that tells you that these are very heavily tested. Yeah, if you see the title of this one is the most important topic, the most important content on the MCAT. So that might give you some idea.
Awesome. Couple more questions coming in. I also just want to elevate that people are free to use the raise your hand function in Zoom if you'd like to ask your question. Otherwise, I'll just keep taking them from the chat and throwing them your way, Joe.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to ask 2 questions. One is from Jackson asking, what is the estimated daily time commitment over the 9 weeks of the boot camp? And then the other is there a diagnostic starting point?
Great questions. Okay, so 2 different questions there. I'm going to answer the diagnostic question first. We don't have a diagnostic test for a really specific reason. If you've not taken the MCAT before and you come in and take a half-length or a full-length MCAT exam, all that's going to tell us is how hard you worked in your undergrad classes to one point, and 2, how hard your undergrad classes were. I've seen people start with really low diagnostic scores that just blow the top off of this thing. And I've seen other people who start with, around average, meaning like close to 500 diagnostic scores, who don't improve a lot because they already knew so much of the stuff coming in. So and also there's the problematic component of diagnostic exams in this space being incredibly deflated. If you go take the Kaplan or the Blueprint or the Princeton Review diagnostic exam today, you are going to get wrecked. The reason for that, well, the conspiracy theory says that it's so that they can make you buy more stuff. Regardless of whether that's true or not, I just don't love the idea of making you waste the first 5 hours that you spend on MCAT prep on a test that is designed to crush you. And so for that reason, we don't have a diagnostic. Now, that said, if you do have a previous MCAT, or if you've already taken a diagnostic, then that's excellent to enter into that diagnostic spot on the website just to track your progress, because it is kind of fun to track your progress. So I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but it's just not something that I view as being worth the time necessary, the time and the energy and the emotional turmoil that it tends to be associated with those exams. So that's my take on that. The other part of that question was was it daily or weekly time commitment? So this is going to be consistent across MCAT prep, generally speaking, for one individual, but it's going to be a little bit different from person to person. Obviously, some people learn a little faster and are more efficient, and so they're going to be able to get through this and do a good job with a lower time commitment. However, and then other people are going to be less efficient or maybe just take a little bit longer to grasp concepts, and that's going to take them a little bit longer. I'm a pretty slow reader. It takes me way longer to get through a chapter than it does somebody else who is at the same spot I am in terms of where their content understanding. But I tend to recommend to people to study for MCAT over the course of a typical MCAT prep window for about 4 to 6 hours a day, maybe 5 or 6 days a week. I know that sounds like a lot, but this doesn't get easier from here. I've been through medical school, and the time commitment on a daily basis necessary to succeed in all of this is pretty significant. They don't, that's why not everybody becomes a physician. Otherwise, it's too high paying and too respect generating for it to not be difficult. So I don't know if that, I hope that answers both of those questions though.
Awesome. Two more questions came in. I think they're asking kind of similar things about basically when they should start studying, when they should take this course. So one says, do you recommend that we have taken all of the prereq college courses that are tested on the MCAT? And the other says, I'm in my second semester of sophomore year and trying to figure out when to take the test, when to study. Any advice, and how does the
Yeah.
boot camp fit into this?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so in a perfect world, if you have taken all the prereqs, you're going to have a little bit easier time studying for the MCAT than if you haven't. However, there are some classes that if you haven't taken yet, it's not the end of the world. You'll learn all that stuff during this course because, like, for instance, biochemistry is tested really heavily on the MCAT, but it's the more basic ideas in biochemistry that are tested heavily. And so it's stuff that like your course is going to teach you in the first couple of weeks, and then it's just going to expound upon that in extreme extraneous detail throughout the rest of the course. And when I say your course, I mean your like college, your university biochemistry course. That's not that useful to you. Learning about every subunit in ATP synthase is not going to help you on the MCAT. And so for that reason, if somebody tells me they've taken all the prereqs except maybe like biochem and physics 2, then I don't care that much. We can teach you that stuff. It's not that big of a deal. Now, if you haven't taken organic chemistry, you need to take organic chemistry. But if it's just OChem 2 that you're lacking, you're fine. So, I would say that, and if you're lacking, like I'm saying that OChem 2 is not that important. Biochem, we can teach you that. Physics 2, we can teach you that. That's not, but if you haven't taken any of those 3, then that becomes a bigger problem. So it's not a perfectly black and white answer. But that would be my advice on that. If you're in so the person who asked about second semester sophomore year, I've recently seen, I took the MCAT near the end of my junior year. It is kind of hard to cram that in though at the very end of your junior year leading into your senior year, because if you don't want to take a gap year, you need to have your application ready to go by like June or July of your junior year, in which case you have to study for the MCAT kind of through junior spring, which tends to be packed with heavier courses for a lot of people. And so you have a hard time finding time. I had one student this last summer. She got a 528 on the MCAT, and she's now a tutor with us. And so obviously, like, different people are different. But she took the MCAT and during the summer between her sophomore and junior year, and had a ton of success on that. But she was also somebody who is always going to do pretty well on the MCAT, not until she got a 528. So it kind of depends on where you are with the prereqs, how well you tend to do on exams, how well you've done in your classes, whether I would advise you to take it during that summer, or maybe even to just start studying like this spring and then study up through the summer and see whether you could take it early in the spring of your junior year. That would be my maybe like next piece of advice on that. Yeah, Simone, go ahead and ask the question. I saw you raise your hand earlier and then it was gone, so I didn't know if we'd answered something.
Yeah, that was me in the chat. I was
Oh,
wondering
okay,
if
gotcha.
I could like talk to you like separately because I just need a little bit more advice. Like I'm the first person in my family pursuing a medical degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, you're just going with the flow and you don't really know where you're going. So I just need a little bit more advice on this. And I'm really interested in the program. But
Mm-hmm.
I also saw somebody else asked a question in the group chat about the cost being like monthly, or is it like a one-time payment?
Great questions. So there is a link on our website where you can schedule a consultation meeting with me. So you can use that just where it says schedule free consultation. The link, the cost of the program right now, the links on the website just have just a one-time payment on them. However, we've always done payment plans with people. One thing I don't want to start doing, because that I did in the last iteration of this course that has been a huge headache for me, is make a different payment plan for every person. That's just like really annoying to keep up with. But I think what we'll probably do is create a monthly payment option, and there, that way those of you who can't pay for it all up front, or who don't want to have to pay for the whole cost up front, are able to split this thing up into, Colleen, I think you have links for that stuff, right? I think I sent them to you the other day.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we have weekly and monthly payment plan options already set up for people. And so we're not going to customize it 8 million times, like, or, 50 times like we did before. But I do want to be able to offer that just because it makes sense. It's not really that hard to do. So yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem.
So I had another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is there like, so I'm a senior right now in college. I wanted to take a gap year. So I don't know if it's like, would you think it's too late, or do you think I'm like
I think
at
you're
a
spot
right?
on. Honestly, yeah, I think that so if you start prepping right now, then the goal would be, most people, it takes about 4 to 6 months to do sufficient MCAT prep. And so if you're wanting to prep right now and take the test, let's say like May, then that's perfect. Then you have about, have a couple weeks to get your application together, submit it early June, which is the best time to submit your application, statistically speaking. And then you're and the application process for that cycle to matriculate in 2025. So yeah, that would be spot on. That'd be perfect.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're in a good spot.
Suppose you decide to take this program. Good evening. By how much, or what is the success rate from the other students who've previously taken this course?
Yeah,
How
so
much
this is
research?
yeah. Great question. This is the second time we've run this course. So we don't have data back from people who've taken the test yet. That said, we do have a ton of data from people who've done our tutoring program. I think the average score increase for our tutoring program, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Let me pull it up and I can tell you it's pretty significant. Let's see if I can get that pulled up here. But it's, yeah, okay, oh no, that's our LSAT stuff. Give me 1 second. But I can tell you that, yes, long story short, I don't have the answer to your question on that, just because we don't have significant data there. This is our tutoring program score increase. And obviously there are pros with the tutoring program that don't come with this course, but I think there are some pros with this course that don't come with the tutoring program as well. So the tutoring is going to be more personalized, just because you're working one-on-one with somebody. It's also a little bit higher cost point because you're working one-on-one with somebody. Whereas this course is more regimented, meaning that you have to stay on track, which is really helpful for a lot of people who want to dive too deep into every single topic. It forces you to go through at a certain pace and to maintain that pace, which I've found to be really useful for a lot of people so far this winter. So that's the pros and the cons on those two. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I also had another question.
Yeah,
You
sure.
said the course takes place January 15 and March 14, 2 days a week from 8 to 10. When would
Yeah.
you meet your tutor to get that personalized? Is that during those?
Yeah. So, you mean like the one-on-one meeting that you have to do the personalized study plan?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a one-time meeting that you do ideally at the beginning of the course. I mean, I don't want you to go all the way through the course and then do it at the end. That'd be silly. So I recommend doing it in like the first week of the course, but it's really up to your discretion on like when you're available and all of that. And the two of you will build out that study plan that I showed you a little bit earlier whenever you meet together. Yeah. So that way, because they'll ask you a bunch of questions like, for instance, how do you prefer to learn from flashcards or from books or from videos or whatever? How many hours a week do you have? Maybe if you have, like say you work all day Wednesday and you can't do any studying, then you won't put anything in this column on Wednesday, for instance. And that way they have the course syllabus as well, so they can sync up your personal plan with the course plan. And so that way you don't ever at any point have any misconceptions about what you're supposed to be doing. You can just come in here, look at what this tells you to do for the day, and just do it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So, Thalia, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Do you have a question?
All good. My name is Talia.
Talia. Okay, my bad.
You're good. So I kind of had a question about so I graduated from undergrad like a year ago.
Mhm.
So I'm in my gap year right now. So kind of just trying to get ready to start studying for the MCAT. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
wondering if you would like suggest doing additional preparation before taking this course, or do you think this is like a good starting point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is a really good starting point for people because it allows you to move through all of the content on the test. Most of the time, if you look at a good MCAT prep plan, it's going to have a lot of content early, and then it's going to shift to doing more practice questions later on in the process, because in order to do well on an MCAT passage, to understand an MCAT passage and then translate that to doing well on the questions, you have to be aware of the science very broadly across different disciplines. Like, it's not enough just to know physics pretty well, but not know anything about biology, for instance. You need to understand how it fits together. And so what we're going to do here is push you through all of the content in these 9 weeks, while also complementing that with review that is very practice question oriented, so that by the time you've gone through this, you will have seen everything that's on the MCAT, both in our lectures, in our quizzes, but also inside of the UWorld questions. And so you're going to be learning to navigate through the complex content, which you've probably seen to some extent in your undergrad classes. So it's not like it's totally new. And then also apply it to questions that are MCAT relevant at the same time. And so, yeah, I think it should be. And then obviously you'll have access to the videos forever afterward. I mean, I don't want to say forever, maybe a year, let's say a year after the course is over. And so you can always go back and review those later if once the course ends, you are interested in checking out, going back and looking at some of the stuff after you've had a chance to review more. So the people who are doing it right now as an initial content review are saying that it's really fast for them. And especially because in the current version, we're doing it 3 times a week. And so it's more contracted. And so I think that this should be about perfect. It's really fast for people doing initial content review, but it is also necessary to get through that initial content review quickly, because then you can start going back over and reviewing things and linking ideas together. The biggest hurdle that a lot of people run into in MCAT prep is spending way too much time on their initial content because they feel like they have to memorize everything in the book. And then by the time they get to the end of the books, they have forgotten the things at the beginning. And so then it's a bit of a cycle. So what we're trying to do here is teach it to you and review it frequently throughout, so that by the time you get to the end, you're starting to develop a really solid understanding of everything.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Talia also put a question in the chat earlier asking about if there were any holidays or breaks during the 9-week course. And given how you ran the winter course, I'll let you respond.
Yeah. Okay. So this was an issue in the winter course. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I accidentally scheduled one of the meetings in the winter course on Christmas Day. And then I realized it during the first meeting for the class. And so I just had everybody vote in the chat, and I run polls constantly in the chat in the class because I want to be able to see if everybody's understanding the things we're talking about. So I'll posit questions and have people answer them. And, vote A if you think this, B, C, D, E, etc. So in that one, I just said, so do you all want me to move this class off of Christmas Day? Because obviously not all of you celebrate Christmas. Or do you want to, so we could keep it on Christmas Day, or we could do it the day after Christmas? And it was a perfect 50-50 split. And so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. We'll keep it on Christmas Day for those of you who wanted it there. And I will teach the same thing again tomorrow on the next day, so that it just made it convenient for everybody. And we had about 20 people show up to each meeting. We have about 40 people total in the class. And so it worked out perfectly. So if we need a holiday, what I'll do is continue to do the schedule as previously set up for everybody who signed up for it like that. But then I'll also just throw on extra days, because like the buck stops with me on all of this, and my only goal is to make this as good as it can be. So that's going to be our solution on that stuff.
Awesome. And then these are kind of 2 different scenarios that I think build on Talia's other question that she was asking about. So I just want to present them to you, but you don't have to repeat everything. I think you kind of addressed parts of them, but just in case. So one is a scenario where the student scored 478, their target score is a 510. Like how much do you think the boot camp would be relevant to them? How much studying do you think they would have to do? And then the second scenario is, do you think this boot camp is sufficient MCAT prep? Should I pair it with other study materials? And this person's taking the MCAT at the end of March.
Okay. Yeah. If you're taking the MCAT at the end of March, then I'm assuming you've probably already done some studying to this point. I do not think that 2 months of MCAT prep is going to be sufficient for most people. We do have a couple tutors who work for us who did do short study windows, and that worked for them. But again, different people are different. And I know that if I'd only studied for the MCAT for 2 months, I wouldn't have done very well on it. I needed more. Most people need 4 to 6 months to study. So if we can assume that you've already been doing some studying, then this program should be great for you if you're prepping for a test date at the end of March. We would just want to make sure that we also schedule in some full length practice exams for you, because that's not necessarily part of the course, but that's why you have that meeting with the tutor, so that you can lead up to your exam date using all of those AAMC exams strategically. There's 6 of them that we would want you to take maybe over the last like 9 weeks leading into your exam. So actually you should be taking the first one pretty soon. So I think that should answer that question. We're going to give you so much stuff inside of this course that we want you to do, that there's no way you're going to have time to do other stuff outside of it. By other stuff, I don't mean there's no way you'll be able to balance your classes or your job. I mean that if you do more MCAT prep outside of what we tell you to do, you're crazy. Just because like our goal is to make this a one-stop shop for everything that you need to do for the MCAT. So I think that answers that question. What was the other question? I'm sorry, Colleen.
No problem. It was the test person who is retaking. They got a 478 and they want to go up to a 510. Yeah.
So I don't want to sugarcoat it. 478 to a 510 is a huge jump on this. That's like a 32-point swing. I have had the most I've ever had anybody jump of all the, I think we've had like 500 students work with us on the MCAT. The most I've had probably 4 something. The most I've ever seen anybody jump is 38 points. So it is in that range. However, that was an exceptional situation. So to make that jump from 478 to 510, you're going to need to put a lot of work in on this exam. I just want to make sure that I'm being as forthright with you as possible on that. Now, I do think that if you're at a 478, this is going to help you improve a ton. I can't say for sure whether you get up to a 510 or not, because like I've said a couple of times, different people are different. And so I don't want to sit here and promise any, like, I think you've heard every other company say they're 515 guarantee. We're not doing that, because I can't take the test for you. What I can promise is that during the time in which you work with us, this will be the best prep that you could get, just because we've thought about all of this deeply and have really good resources across the board. So I know that sounds like a very legalistic or a very attorney answer, but I'm just being as honest as I can about this, because I don't want to misrepresent it.
Awesome. And then we had one other question. Should we be using Anki along with this boot camp? And I think that you were addressing it too.
Yeah. Anki is a really good resource for psych soc particularly. I've changed my tune on this. I used to hate Anki when I first started teaching MCAT, because I felt like it did just help people memorize stuff and not actually learn how ideas connect, which is, and the latter is what the test really cares about. But there's a lot of memorization necessary on psych soc and also on biochem to some extent. And so using Anki as a supplement is a good idea. Using it as a sole resource is a terrible idea. So one of the things that we cover in the very first meeting with you is we spend about maybe 20 minutes during that first lecture that we have in the course going over recommended Anki decks given specific goals and specific timeframes. We've got one tutor who has done this analysis ad nauseum, and he has a giant table where you can like look at it and see what your goal is and all of that stuff, and see what Anki decks he would recommend for you for psych soc and for biochem as well. So short answer, yes. Long answer, we'll help you come up with the right one as well. Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Oh yeah, go ahead, Claire.
Hi Joe. I just want to thank you for like all the information.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
was the one that threw out the question about like the boot camp being sufficient for MCAT prep. I'm taking it, so I already registered for the MCAT. I'm taking it on March 22nd. And I actually graduated from college this past December.
Nice.
And what I decided was to just focus the entire spring on MCAT prep. So I know how you mentioned that like a little over 2 months later, I started studying, but I do understand that it's still time crunch. Do you think that given that I'll be like free from school basically, do you think 3 months is still going to be like too little time to prepare for the MCAT?
It's tough to say. Have you taken a diagnostic test?
I have.
know. Oh yeah.
I have.
Do you mind
And
if I
right,
ask how you
yeah,
did?
yeah. So right now my score is a 503, I think. I
That's a
took it
good
a while
diagnosis.
ago.
Yeah.
I took it a while ago. I took it on Blueprint, so I understand you mentioned that it was a little harder as
Probably
well.
deflated. Yeah.
Yeah, so like so this past like month has mostly been more content review.
Hmm.
Do you think this boot camp will help like maybe like help me study more efficiently, I guess?
Oh, for
Um,
sure. Yeah. I definitely think it's going to help you study really efficiently. One of the other topics that I talk about a lot in the very first meeting we have
mhm,
in the course is, so I do like the first meeting is cars, basic car strategy, because cars is the hardest thing to improve for people. And so I want to give them
mhm.
all the strategies that I would use to improve on cars, and then send them on their way to do cars passages every day. And
Okay.
then but then like the second half of that is talking about a lot of study strategies. So like I've been in academia space, I started med school over 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
that sounds so bad now, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've tried like every study strategy under the sun, so I have a lot of, I guess, wisdom, you could say, to impart
Mhm.
there. So that's some of what we talk about. But then what we're also going to have you do, like throughout this course, we're going to have you do that we have scheduled into it, not even the additional material that we'll put on yours. Um,
Yeah.
I think we have like 1,200 UWorld questions scheduled in those, those recommended UWorld sets. And then for yours, obviously, we would incorporate the rest of the UWorld questions during that window, as well as the AMC exams. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, the goal here is for this to be the only thing you need for MCAT, so you don't have to worry about like reading the whole internet to try to figure
Okay.
out what other sources are out there. That's why we pair you up with somebody to work one-on-one on coming up with the study plan, because they can think about, all of our tutors have worked with a lot of students to this point, and they've seen people do extremely well from various different starting points and with various different goals. And so we can think about like the goal that you have and the resources you have available to you, and then
Mhm.
set all of that stuff up in a manner that makes sense, so that whenever you get to the actual test, you're not surprised by anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
great.
No problem. Cool.
I just had another question. I was kind of confused about what UWorld is.
Oh yeah, good question. UWorld is the best question bank in the MCAT space. I can say that with a lot of confidence, and honestly, like we don't have really, I mean, we have an affiliation with them because we bulk purchase from them, and so we're able to give you, that's why we can give you a discount on it, because by buying 40 UWorld subscriptions at a time, they give me a discount. But the only reason we do that is because I used them a bunch for step 1 and step 2 prep, and then over time, just in MCAT, as I taught the MCAT more and more, it just emerged as the best resource. They've got about 3,000 practice questions in UWorld, and then they also give you a dashboard that tracks your performance, so you can see how you're doing across various different sections. So like if you're getting wrecked in biology and doing really well in Gen Chem, for instance, then you'll know that ahead of time, and you can spend more time reviewing biology. They also have phenomenal explanations to all of their practice questions. And so they just, if I could tell, if somebody had only one resource they were allowed to use for the MCAT, I would I would definitely say that UWorld is the one thing. Obviously, don't just use one resource for MCAT. This is too important of a test to just lean on one thing, but it's comprehensive in all of its questions, and it does a pretty good job explaining things. The questions are a little bit harder than the real MCAT on UWorld. Probably, I would say, if I had to quantify it, 5% harder. And so if you've done all of UWorld and reviewed it thoroughly, and you get to the real test, you're in a really good spot at that point. And so that's why we lean really heavily on it.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Any other questions or anything? Like I said, I'm happy to answer more stuff. We're also having another one of these info sessions in like 5 days, next Tuesday at the same time. Obviously, if you've been to this one, you probably don't need to go to that one. I will also be sending out this video later for any of you who might want to review this as well. Yeah, no problem. All right. Well, if no other questions, we can definitely wrap it up. I don't want to push anybody out. Oh, Sheila asks when the boot camp starts. So it starts January 15th, which is not this coming Monday, but the next Monday after that. However, I do have we do have the discount that we're running on the website. That's the $400 off discount, 20% off thing for if you sign up before January 9th. And the reason for that is we need to know for sure whether we're running the course. If we only get 5 people that sign up, we're not running the course, just because at that point I can't, like we're losing money on it if that happens, and we're not going to do that because this is a business after all. But yeah, so bootcamp starts January 15th. You can get the discount up to January 9th. The discount will apply if you attend the session next week, but you can just apply it now. So you don't necessarily have to. You can't apply it twice, if that was the question. Sorry for that. It's only going to be one discount link there. Yeah, Anna Marie, did you have a question?
Hi there. I know we already talked about this a little bit before, but since we are starting on a Monday, are you still thinking of keeping it to a Monday every week? I know that's not yet in the works, or are you going to do a future poll for whoever signed up?
That's a great question. I would like to hear from everybody. I think we'll send out a poll with the link to the video. So I want to send a link to the video from this meeting. We'll probably send that tomorrow sometime, and we'll send a poll with it. I'll also just ask everybody in the course all the time, like if there's anything they want to change. And if it turns out everybody doesn't want to do it on Monday, then we won't do it on Monday. The way that we chose Monday and Thursday is I arbitrarily said, let's do Monday and Thursday. And so I have no affinity to Monday really, other than that's what everybody is kind of aware of. But, if it turns out that something else would work better, we'll do whatever that something else is. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the question though. That's super helpful, honestly.
Thank you. Looking forward to joining this program.
Oh, thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
night.
I really appreciate it. Any other questions from anyone? Reiterate the meeting times. Oh yeah. Jackson just asked if I could say again what times we're meeting. So the course is going to be meeting from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays and Thursdays as of right now. Now, if you all just email, I'm hesitant to say, don't email me. If you all fill out the survey that we send out tomorrow after this meeting is over, and everybody's like, no, Tuesday's better, like morning is better or whatever, I'm good with whatever we can do. I'm just picking the times to try to guess what works best for most people. And in the last course that we did, it turned out that Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings worked the best. And but Friday is definitely the day that we get the least attendance, and so that's why I switched to just Monday and Thursday for this one. Any other questions at all from anyone? All right. Well, if no other questions, we can definitely wrap this up. Like I said, I'll send out the email. We'll send an email tomorrow with a link to this video as well as that survey that I mentioned. We might include a couple other questions in the survey. I can't think of what they might be. We'll probably also put the slides from today in there as well, just in case you want to go back and look at any of this. I think that should be pretty much it. But if anybody does have any additional questions, you can email me. Don't email me questions that I just answered a second ago, please. But if you have questions that didn't come up tonight that you would like answers to, by all means, please reach out, and I can include answers to those as well in subsequent emails that go out. I really appreciate all of you taking the time to join this evening. I also appreciate the super insightful questions. Getting questions like this is so useful for me as I start thinking about ways to make this course better, as well as ways to communicate what we're doing more effectively, because ultimately, like, the easy thing for me is teaching the MCAT science. The hard thing is telling everybody about how good we are without saying how good we are, just because that's obnoxious. But so again, I really appreciate all your participation. Thank you so much. Please let me know if any other questions come up, and I will look forward to hopefully working with some of you soon. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you again.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.